Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Holy crap, the level of pettiness in our first story is just unbearable. You really took the best revenge as living well and applied it soundly. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Coworker insulted me and my husband, so I couldn't just let that go. We have a fairly new employee in my office we'll call Angie. Angie is one of those women who needs to be the center of attention all the time, and if another woman who's just as or more attractive than her is around, then she becomes louder and playfully insults the other woman. Of course, she doesn't like me because I dare to be pretty. I take the best approach I can and just ignore her while telling her none of my private life so she doesn't have any ammunition. That just leaves my appearance for her to comment about. Our office is extremely casual, and I'm in a male-dominated field. I'm usually in jeans, a nice top, and comfortable shoes, like Dansko's. I wear makeup, but in a natural way, and rarely wear lipstick and mascara. It's enough to enhance, but not over the top. Pretty standard office makeup. Angie comments constantly within earshot how I'm making myself up to get attention and how there should be an office policy of no makeup so everyone is equal when it comes to promotion opportunities, indicating I use my looks to get promoted. I ignore these comments because performance matters more, so I do my job and let the numbers shine about my worth. Besides, I've been here for a decade, so no one pays Angie the amount of attention she thinks she deserves. She's like a fly, annoying but mostly harmless. However, what really pissed me off Monday was her saying I flirt with every guy at work because I'm on the prowl and my husband must be fat and ugly. Say what you will about me, but bring my husband into it, and there will be action taken. I told my husband about this, and we schemed. He would pick me up from work yesterday evening, and we would go to a fancy dinner. I wouldn't have time to change at work, so I might as well dress up for work so I'm ready for dinner. I picked an office-appropriate but tighter black dress with a fitted blazer and my clackiest heels. I made my hair into an elegant updo and went all out on makeup. Smoky eyes, lipstick, perfect eyeliner, mascara, etc. Angie's face was glorious when she saw me at work. You could see the rage she tried to hide as everyone complimented me on how stunning I looked. All day, I would wait until Angie had one of her flirting partners at her desk and make sure to go talk to her about work projects. Every time I would drop by, I would get showered with compliments. It got to a boiling point, and Angie snapped. You can just send me an email. There's no need to come all the way to my desk for these things. I just smiled and told her, "Oh, it's no problem, Angie. I like getting up from my desk now and then." When I mentioned my husband was stopping by to pick me up, the office ladies were all abuzz and told me to have him stop by early to chat. Angie's never met my husband, who is incredibly handsome and charismatic. He showed up looking very sharp in his suit, and she was stunned and even further envious. He did his usual charming and joking that had everyone smiling and laughing. I didn't see her duck out early and couldn't introduce my husband, but no matter. The plan was a smashing success. Unplanned bonus revenge, when we showed up at the restaurant, guess who was in the bar having an after-work drink? Angie. My husband and I walked over and I introduced him. We made some small talk while waiting for our table. Dinner was wonderful, and on our way out we noticed Angie still slamming the cocktails. She called out of work today, so I hope her hangover is a terrible one. This is incredible. The fact the restaurant you went to was the same one she was at as well makes this all the more better. And our second story. Screw me over a tire? When I was in my early 20s, maybe 15 years ago, I'd taken my two-door Cobalt to the dealership for a recall. When I brought it in, I said, "Since you'll have it, could you patch the hole in my tire? Two birds with one stone, you know?" They, of course, said yes. When I show back up at the end of the day and my car now has its donut tire on, I'm confused. They tell me the tire's hole wasn't fixable and they had to put on the donut for safety as I couldn't drive it. Weird, because my tires only had a handful of 1,000 miles on them and the leak was pretty slow, and I'd been driving it fine for over a month, filling it once a week. So I say, toss the tire in my truck, I'm taking it with me. I didn't look at it, I just drove to my tire place the next day after calling out of work to deal with this. I had them look at my old tire to tell me what happened. I didn't know much about things at that point. Wouldn't you know, there was an 8-inch gash through the sidewall. It was on the bottom, so I wouldn't have seen it even if I did look at it without pulling it out of my trunk. They told me they'd patched it, and this happened when they were putting the tire back on the rim. The machine can do this if you're not careful. I called the service manager, who denies any wrongdoing and says that's how it came. I told him it's not possible, that I drove it there with that damage. He doubled down and said it wasn't their fault. I even had my tire guy talk to him on the phone, since I felt like he would possibly listen to someone who's in the business. I got on Facebook and Google and messaged corporate, and within an hour I was getting phone calls from him pleading to take down the reviews, and whatever they had to do to fix it, they would. Just stop talking online. I called him back a couple hours later because it was funny to make him wait. He said, "We'll reimburse you for the tire." I asked about my wasted time, day off, work, gas. He said, "I can't pay you for your day off work, but I can reimburse you for your tank of gas. Just bring me in the receipt." We all know to fill a Cobalt gas tank up to 15 years ago took about $13. So I prepaid $100 in cash, filled my tank, and went to get the change, handed him my gas receipt and my tire receipt, and they cut me a check on the spot. He didn't say anything about the $100 receipt, but we both knew my tank couldn't hold that. That was the last time I asked a dealership to have anything done not covered by warranty or recall. I'll never understand what it is about the car business that brings out the a-hole crooks. The industry's like a jerk magnet. And our next story. And our last story. Want my territory? Now your huge house is mine. To set the stage, many decades ago, Barney and Betty immigrated from Europe and bought a farm. A few years later, they had kids and sponsored Wilma from the old country as a nanny. She met Fred, a local boy, fell in love, and got married. Wilma stayed on as the nanny, and Fred worked as a farmhand. Their kids and Barney and Betty's kids grew up together. It was pretty much a big blended family. Years go by, and Barney and Betty decide to sell the farm fields to Farmer Frank, but kept the land the house was on. They made enough off the sale to build a nice new house and rezone the property lines. They broke the lot up into 2 parcels, one for the new house and one for the existing house, which they gifted to Fred and Wilma as recognition of their years of dedicated and loving service. Both houses shared a well and septic field. More time went by, Barney and Betty passed away, and their house was inherited by their son, Gabe. Fred also passed away, and Wilma stayed in the house. She was an angel. Everyone in the town knew and loved her. She was like the town's grandmother. She was active in the church and liked nothing more than crocheting booties for anyone in town that had a baby. Sadly, Wilma passed away too, and her house was inherited by her daughter, Pebbles. She was well established in a nearby metropolitan city and made the decision to sell the house. And so it begins. The parcel for sale is the solid bit, which backs onto protected parkland and is bordered by Gabe's land and Farmer Frank's fields. It was purchased by a builder from the city, which we'll call Dick. The name suits him. He wanted it as a country getaway, as he already had a place in the city. He got approval to improve the place, and his plans were to convert the barn into a multi-car garage with a man cave and an apartment in what was the loft. He started by tearing down the house with plans to replace it with a bigger, more modern house. The house was torn down and the new build was started. The lower part of Gabe's territory represents a very narrow driveway. Between that driveway and Farmer Frank's field was a drainage culvert. So the contractors started parking their vehicles on Gabe's lot. Gabe asked the contractors not to do it, but they didn't stop, so he approached Dick, and the conversation didn't go well. Dick was an entitled big shot, dealing with what he thought was a country bumpkin. To give you an idea, Dick once went to the local diner and asked for the wine list. He was aggressive and disrespectful, and this pretty much set the tone for all future interactions. Gabe had enough. These contractor trucks were tearing up his ground, so one weekend, he built a fence along the border between his house and Dick's. It wasn't a complicated fence. He just got a buddy with a post hole digger on his Bobcat, sunk posts and strung planks between them. This caused no end of trouble with the build. There was no room to park for the contractors without getting in each other's way, and they couldn't park in the driveway, which was only wide enough for one vehicle at a time. Contractors were pissed off. They had a long walk from the road to the build site and had to carry tools and equipment back and forth. Either that or take turns dropping materials, waiting hours for the carpenters to finish unloading the lumber so that the plumbers could unload the pipes. Dick was furious and came stomping over to Gabe, demanding that he dismantle the fence. Gabe told him to go to hell. Then a day later, Gabe saw that someone had removed some of the fence and the contractor trucks were back on his land. Okay, thought Gabe, let's play. The following weekend, Gabe irrigated the area where the contractors were parking, irrigated it long and continuously. He probably had to get a water delivery to make it happen, as the well had a limited capacity. On Monday, the first contractor to arrive turned off Dick's driveway to go through the fence and immediately sank up to his axles in mud. Did I mention that Gabe owned the local service station and knew every tow truck company within 100 miles? As it turned out, everyone they called was too busy to pull the truck out, and they had to call a tow truck from the city, almost 2 hours away. You can see how the relationship between Gabe and Dick became somewhat less than neighborly. Time went by, Dick's house was completed. It was a low-maintenance setup with interlocking brick over the compound, tall hedges separating Dick from Gabe. They kept out of each other's way, but they certainly weren't pals. Dick's kids would come up on the weekend and have a party now and then, but Gabe put up with it. One issue that arose was when Dick decided to fill the small swimming pool that he'd installed. This drew the well dry and caused some sand to be pulled into the water treatment equipment. When Gabe approached Dick about the cost of the repair via email, Dick basically replied that it was Gabe's problem. The same when the septic holding tank needed to be pumped. Gabe offered to split the cost of the pumping, and Dick refused to part with a dime. Years passed, and Dick decided to list the house for sale. That's when Gabe made his move. He cut the water and capped the septic line leading from Dick's house. Then he informed the real estate agent of what he'd done. Well, that induced a thunderstorm for sure. There's no way Dick could sell a house that had no water or any way to dispose of waste. He couldn't build a septic field on his property. It was too small. He approached Farmer Frank to buy some of his land, but was rebuffed. His only option would have been to install a septic holding tank, but the only place to put it would have been right in the middle of his compound, and septic tanks can be aromatic. It would also have meant removing the in-ground pool. Dick tried to argue in court that he was entitled to access to the well water and the septic field, but Gabe won, arguing that Fred and Wilma were given water and septic as a courtesy and that there was no contractual obligation to provide Dick either well water or septic access. There was nothing in the deed to Wilma and Fred that could be grandfathered in, and Dick's emails refusing to pay for maintenance to either system was the nail in the coffin. The property sat vacant and unusable for months. The price dropped through the floor, and the few people that expressed an interest in the property approached Gabe with varying offers of cash to restore service. Gabe declined. No offers were made to Dick for the house. Finally, Dick did receive an offer from a numbered corporation, an offer that was about a quarter of the asking price, as is, with a statement that the buyer was aware that there was no water or septic service to the property. Without much choice, Dick accepted the offer. And that's how Gabe bought himself a beautiful modern country home at a steal of a price. He reattached the water and septic in the afternoon and moved his furniture down the driveway. He rented his old house out for extra money and had the numbered company negotiate with himself for an arrangement for perpetual use of well and septic, thereby jacking the value of the house by a factor of 4. Later, if he decides to sell it, he'll be making a massive profit. Gabe now enjoys a country paradise and is the social king of the hill in his town. All because Dick decided to be a dick. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.